Thank you so much. Give it a go for my body double. Always conscious of assassination attempts. It's so nice to be back here on the island, ladies and gentlemen. It's my homeland. I love Vancouver Island so much. I love being surrounded by water. I'm full of chicken strips. I've never felt so good in my life. I love the island so much. It is just so much better than everywhere else. It is the best place in the world to live. It really is. And I think that's because the people here are so nice and everyone is much more calm than on the mainland. And I think that's because you can't just drive straight here angry. You know, you gotta get on a ferry and stare at the ocean for 90 minutes. It really calms you down. I think that's why we have such a low murder rate on the island compared to the mainland. Because, you know, murderers can't drive straight here from Vancouver, you know? A murderer can't come just bombing down the highway towards the island like, oh man, I'm gonna kill this guy. And then they get to the ferry terminal, they're like, damn it! They get on the ferry, they're trying to stay angry, they're just pacing up and down on the sun deck. There's no way that guy is that good at Call of Duty. He was definitely cheating, and now he's gonna die. Is that an orca? It is beautiful today. By the time they get to Vancouver Island, they're like, I'm just gonna scare that guy. I can't do it. It's too nice out here. The island is a calm place for many reasons, you know. I think another reason, too, is that we have a lot of old money here on Vancouver Island. And old money is very calm, you know. It's a different kind of money. It's a calm money. These rich people have been rich for a long time, and they're never worried about things, you know. In Vancouver on the mainland, it's full of new money people. They're highly stressed out, you know? You ask a new money person where they got their money, they're like, I have like 100 Airbnbs, and the pandemic was insane. I had to sell like 3 of them so I didn't have to work for a living. It was tough. It's brutal out there. On Vancouver Island, you ask an old money person where their money came from, they're like, well, in the Third Crusade. My family owned a very successful silk caravan. I don't have to sell any of my Airbnbs. You know, if I need money, I just send a raven to the Knights Templar. Well, the pandemic did not concern me. It was foretold in the scrolls. The only real problem on Vancouver Island is the mountain lions. I don't know if you know this, but Vancouver Island has the densest population of mountain lions in the world. Yeah, I guess it's here. I guess there's a mountain lion here tonight. That's how dense the population is. They are in this comedy club right now. All the cougars, yes, I knew that was going to happen. Took a huge risk. But yes, we have the densest population of mountain lions in the world. I don't know how this happened. You know, I guess they keep multiplying and they can't get on the ferry, so they're just piling up here. And it's actually such a problem. When I was a little kid, I had a conservation officer come to my school and educate the children about the murder cats that were lurking behind the playground. And I'll never forget what the conservation officer said. He sat down and he was like, you know, kids, you'll probably never see a mountain lion, but statistically, mountain lions have already seen you. It's the scariest thing I'd ever heard in my life. The fear of mountain lions has been burned into me so deeply, it is irrational. I live in Vancouver now, in the city, And, I went down, I was walking down like a creepy alley the other day, and I heard some shuffling behind me, and my first thought was the mountain lions. Oh my God. They finally found me. And I turned around slowly, and it was just some guy with a knife. Like, I was so relieved. Thank God he's got a knife in case there's a mountain lion around here, you know? Terrifying. Yeah, but generally, island problems are very different than mainland problems. I met a friend for coffee in Vancouver a few months ago, and he arrived late to the coffee, and he was all shooken up and, kind of trembly. And I was like, hey, man, what happened? And he was like, some guy tried to mug me, but I managed to fight him off. And I was like, oh, my God, that's terrifying. And then when I visited my grandmother on rural Vancouver Island a few weeks ago, I knocked on her door, and she came to the door, and she had the same, traumatized, trembly look in her face. I was like, oh, my God, Grandma, what happened? She was like, there's just too many hummingbirds. I can't feed them all. It's a nightmare. I was raised by hillbillies on the island. I know it's hard to imagine I have very good posture, but I was raised by rednecks, and a few years ago, a relative of mine, he died, and I inherited all of his guns. And I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. I guess it'll be fun. I could just add some blast into my life. And I went to the rifle range, and I can't really enjoy guns because the ammunition is so expensive. I can't have a good time. Like, I sit at the rifle range, and the only thing going through my head is I'm like, $1, $1, $1, $1, $1. Oh, there's a big one, eh? Well, that's pretty cool. There's a $3. Oh. Would have been a nice coffee. And I can't really, you can't have guns for self-defense in Canada. It doesn't work that way here. If you have guns at your place, you have to have them locked behind layers of security. It would be impossible. If someone broke into my apartment, it would take me a long time to get to the guns. So if someone breaks into my apartment, I basically have to monologue like a Bond villain. Like, if someone smashes into my apartment, I'm going to have to be like, get a glass of wine, walk into the living room. Ah, noble thief. Well done. You have breached my security. What a fool I was, thinking a sliding glass door would be enough. Now, before you beat me senseless and burgle my belongings, I thought I may toast you man to man. Now, my most expensive brandy I keep in that tall safe there in the corner. So if you don't mind, I will get our toast prepared here. You have done well tonight. I didn't even hear you come in, and I think you should be quite proud of yourself. I would say your burglary was almost flawless, sir. Your only mistake being that you allowed me to talk for this long. $1, $1, $1, $1, $3. I'm a very good grandson. as all island boys are. There's a lot of grandparents here. And I phone my grandma all the time, and my grandma is very funny. She's 96 years old, and she has a very dark sense of humor, and she always giggles after she says something horrifying. Like, almost every time we end our phone call, I'll be like, okay, Grandma, I'll talk to you soon. She's like, probably not. All right. Whenever we talk on the phone, she would always talk about, like, she'd moved into a retirement home in the last few years, and she would always talk about the dinners they have there. She loves the food so much, and so I went to go visit her in the retirement home, and I was in a room, and I saw a laminated folder that said DNR on it, and I thought, oh, DNR, that's short for dinner. And, like, dinner, this spells dinner. I was like, Grandma, is that your dinner menu? She's like, no, it means do not resuscitate. I love talking to my grandma, though. 96 years old, she's got a lot of amazing perspective on world events. I always like to get her opinion on things going on in the news. And I asked her, I said, like, Grandma, how does the pandemic compare to other things you've lived through? Like, was it worse that, like, what was it like compared to World War II? And she was like, oh, it was so much worse. And I was like, what? How was the pandemic worse than World War II? And she was like, oh, you know, World War II made sense. The pandemic was very confusing. And I thought, you know, that's kind of a fair point, honestly. Like, World War II is a huge tragedy, but it is a very simple story, you know? You've got, like, Hitler and the team of evil boys that's like the worst villains of all time on one side, and then the other side you've got like Tom Hanks and the Band of Brothers and all the greatest heroes. And when the war ends, you know, every newspaper in the world is like, the war is over. And then, you know, if you're white, you get a Cadillac and a house. It's like pretty awesome. Like, I don't think we would think of World War II with the same reference for the story if World War II ended like the pandemic ended, right? Like 1 year in 1945, all the newspapers in the world are like, there's 85% less World War II this year than, I think we're gonna call it. It's probably done about, just feel free to travel. We didn't find Hitler, he's out there somewhere. We are monitoring the situation. A lot of people revenge traveling this year. I heard that term. I hated that term. The news is saying everybody's revenge traveling for the travel they didn't get to do in the pandemic. And that sounds terrible, having a revenge holiday. I don't think you have to travel with revenge in your heart. Like all these people going to the Grand Canyon, like, look at the stupid cliffs! I was supposed to be here a year ago! Get in the truck! Look at Yellowstone National Park, it's a year older than it's supposed to be! 2020 was the best year for geysers! Traveling is very popular these days. There's a lot of, a lot of influencers, a lot of rich influencers always posting about traveling. They always say they're going on an adventure. But they're all these rich people. Like, traveling is not an adventure if you're wealthy. Like, it's just a seamless series of events. You want to go on an adventure when you travel poor. Like, you'll have the biggest adventure of your life. Try and live in Europe for 3 months on a budget of $1,000. You're gonna rent an Airbnb in Romania that's like, if you're gonna stay here, no garlic, no crucifixes. It's like $1 a night, no problem. I was fortunate to travel right out of high school. I lived in France for a little while. That was cool. It was interesting living in France. You know, I don't speak French at all, which makes it tough. They speak French like all day there. It's very humiliating not speaking the language. You know, I basically had to be Mr. Bean to get my point across. I tried to get a haircut in France, and I walked into the barber shop like, oh, snip, snip, oh. Yeah, Rowan Atkinson. But yeah, people travel for all sorts of different reasons. You know, some people travel because they want to find out things about different cultures. They want to find out things about themselves. But when you actually go traveling, you learn that all you find is Australians. And you could go to a remote mountain village in Nepal and be watching the sunset, and like softly in the distance you'll just hear like, beautiful. And I don't blame it on the Australians. It's just part of their life cycle. They're just not like other people, you know? Like they spawn in Australia. They're almost like salmon, right? They spawn in Australia. As soon as they're strong enough, they leave to like go collect work visas and PR cards. And then when they're ready to reproduce, they return to Australia because they have to make sure their weird accent continues forever, you know? Can't lose it. Raising their little kids like, remember, it's pronounced no. I lived with my grandparents for a long time here in Victoria, and they loved having me live there. I was like in-home tech support for them at all times. And they loved that a lot. My grandpa is very bad with computers, and I'd always go into his office, and I swear he had so many viruses on his computer, like the webcam would like follow me across the room. But I always thought it was so interesting that he struggled so much with modern technology when the technology he grew up with is infinitely more complicated than what we have now. Everything now is all very intuitive. He showed me how to start his old tractor once, and it was like an 11-step process. So you gotta put a little bit of fuel in the cylinder, pull the choke up, make sure it's in turtle mode. Sometimes if the battery's dead, you gotta like jump it on a hill. Like, Grandpa, you know how you start an iPad? You look at it. You just look at it. Why does this blow your mind? And my grandpa could fix anything too. He could fix his old tractor. He could like just hear it. He could be like, oh, it sounds like the clutch is slipping. Oh, it sounds like the cam chain needs tensioning. I'm like, Grandpa, you know how you fix an iPad? You turn it off and turn it on 3 times, and if that doesn't work, you throw it in the garbage and buy a new one. It's so much easier. Yeah, I remember once I was upstairs. I heard my grandma freaking out downstairs. And I was like, oh my God, what's going on, Grandma? Are the hummingbirds aggressive again? And she's like, no. She's like, no, Myles, we have to go to the mall right now. The government's on the phone. They say I'm behind on my taxes, and I need to send Google Play gift cards to India. And I was like, Grandma, we are not going to the mall, okay? You can buy those online now. Let me show you how to do it. How much do you need? I definitely am a curmudgeon, though. I don't like new tech. I think there was a line that happened somewhere where we used to use technology. Now technology just uses us, and it's very annoying. You know, I also kind of feel like a weird old hermit now because, you know, I go around, like, I remember how it felt to have my brain destroyed by my phone. I'm old enough to remember my pre-phone brain and just how smart I was back then. You know, I walk around like a weird old hermit now, like warning young people, like, oh, don't spend too much time on your phone there. I remember back in 2004, I used to have one thought for minutes and minutes and minutes. Oh, boy. I really used to get to the bottom of stuff back then. tough. It's totally ruined my brain. I don't like the algorithmically recommended video feeds. I don't like that. I miss television. I miss everybody watching the same TV shows at the same time. You know, it was like a cultural experience. Everyone's watching the same stuff. The next day you could talk about the same episode of Frasier you all watched. You're like, isn't that a fun time? Now it's very weird. It could almost be awkward, you know? Like I'll meet a group of friends. I'll be like, hey guys, yeah, how about those algorithm videos last night? A lot of weird Nazi stuff in there, am I right, guys? We don't get those videos. Well, they're very interesting. My sister, she loves TikTok. She's addicted to TikTok. I don't like TikTok. I think that's the moment I became old, was I said those words out loud. I said, what is TikTok? And both my knees popped. But she loves it, and I don't like it. I don't like random videos being just shotgunned at me as I'm sitting on this. It's very disorienting. And she's like, Myles, like, you just have to use it a whole bunch, and then it knows what you like, and it shows you better videos. And I'm like, you know how terrifying that sounds to me? Like, you're basically saying, Myles, don't resist the machine. Let it learn your mind. And it will show you the ads you've always wanted. I can't stand it. And I hate getting pushed to new tech all the time. You're always getting pushed to new tech. I remember VR was like the flavor of the year for so long, and it's so stupid because they've never been able to solve the fundamental problem of virtual reality, which is walking around. And it's crazy because all these tech bros spend billions and billions of dollars trying to solve this, when the simplest solution is right there. You know, just put every main character in the video game that you play as, they're in a wheelchair. Like, it's simple. It's a simple solution. Like, imagine, you know, you could have like the new Call of Duty game, you know, it's like World War II beaches in Normandy, you know, all the machine guns are blasted, and then like a landing craft comes to the beach, the ramp slams down, and you, as the player, roll out as FDR. Like, big cigarette in your mouth, like Tommy Gunn, who ordered the New Deal? I love when people pull back when I say that joke. Like, whoa, there's no heroes in wheelchairs. No, we can't have that. No. We're a very mean group of people. We're not inclusive here. It's always, when I was growing up, I played so many video games, just obsessed with video games, me and my brothers. I have 2 younger brothers, and little boys are stupid. We are obsessed with war. I don't know what it is with little boys and going to conflict with each other all the time, but I grew up playing war video games, obsessed with war, and I think it's so sad that a lot of the world's wars are fought by teenage boys. Like, from a human perspective, it's tragic, but from a tactical perspective, it kind of makes sense. Like, teen boys are the dumbest, most aggressive people on earth. They heal instantly. And they stay up all night long. Like, it's pretty much everything you'd want in a super soldier. I would never want to fight an army of teenage boys. It would be impossible. I'd be standing there in a trench with my binoculars, like looking out, and I'm like, oh dear God, I see a huge like cloud of vape in the distance. Johnson, do you see the vape cloud? Yeah, we got the teen division. Oh my God, they move so fast. And they're wearing flip-flops. How is this possible? It looks like they've tucked their pants into their socks or something. Why? Why did they do that? Oh dear God. Oh, they're pointing at me. What are they saying? Do you know what they're saying, Johnson? They say my binoculars are cringe? I'm in my 30s, and it's funny, when I turned 30, everyone started acting all smug around me. You know, they're always like, oh, you feel old now, Myles? You feel old? And I'm like, No, I don't. I don't really feel old because I'm in my 30s. I remember the day I felt old was the day I graduated university and had to do a job. That was when the old happened. It's like crazy how that day of this is my life now hits you like a ton of bricks, That's why I understand why, when we're in school, it's funny when you're a student because you represent potential all the time. When you're a student, it's the loveliest time because anything could happen. You could be anything, do anything. As soon as you graduate school, this is what you are forever now. It's a terrible feeling. That's why my advice to younger kids would be stay in school forever. Never leave. Imagine how awesome. I wish I had just stayed in school forever. I was still there. I was just doing PhD after PhD. Imagine if I died, when I'm 84 years old, I've got 7 doctorate degrees, $3 million of debt. There'd be a whole page of the newspaper dedicated to me. They'd be like, man with unlimited potential. Died today. He was gonna change the world if only he ever graduated. We can only imagine what he would achieve. But yeah, I don't know. My older friends too, who are in their 30s already, were very smug. They were saying things to me. They're like, "Oh, you're in your 30s now. Well, buckle up because when I was in my 20s, I could drink all night long, and the next day I'd feel totally fine. But now that I'm in my 30s and I drink too much, the next day, my gums bleed, I can't feel my legs, and I'm like, I don't think you have age-related medical problems. I think you have scurvy." Maybe have a lime. My friends are starting to talk, in their 30s, are starting to make big life decisions. There's a lot of pressure to make life decisions. And a lot of my friends who make some money are thinking about retirement. And I can't afford to retire, so that's nice. I don't have to worry about it. It's one less thing, I'm in my 30s now. I'm 32 years old, and I do not have a brand. It's horrible to be brandless at this age. I don't know what my brand is. I think it's just sort of generally disappointing. I'm a disappointing person because people see me, they assume I have money, but I'm actually poor. Very sad. People assume I'm rich because I have a resting rich face. And I do, and it's terrible because I also feel like I should be rich. I think that would be the natural way of things. I identify as a rich person even though I'm poor. I think I have economic dysmorphia. I do not identify with my bank account at all. Every time I check my banking app, I'm like, this isn't me. Doesn't feel right at all. It sucks though, I'll meet a group of new people, they assume I might be a rich guy, they get all excited, and then I'll say something, and I'll just blow the whole illusion by saying something only a poor person would say. I'll be like, hey, can I get a ride with you guys? This guy sucks. But yeah, a lot of my friends are, they're starting to have kids now, and they ask me if I want to have kids, and I'm like, that's a very complicated question, because I want to have a very specific kind of kid. I want to have rich kids, and I can only make poor little orphans right now, and I don't want to have to put them through that. It's awful, I'll take it from first-hand experience. My mom's poor, she made me. It's terrible. I gotta work for a living? What a nightmare. That's why, I am a huge advocate for universal basic income, because I was brought to life against my will and I should be compensated for it. I didn't choose this. But yeah, I don't know, I think about it a lot, and You know, kids are honestly like kind of a huge flex. Like it's almost ostentatious to make a kid now. Like kids are not for normal people. It's for like the ultra rich have children because they're so expensive. Like when I am in a restaurant and I hear someone's kid freaking out, I get mad in the same way as when I hear someone revving their Ferrari in Vancouver. Like I'll be sitting at my table like, I mean, we get it. You have money. Please make your kids be quiet. Stop bragging in this restaurant. You can't just have you can't just raise a normal child anymore. You can't just like have a good person. That's not good enough. You have to optimize a child for the global economy now. You cannot slack. If your kid doesn't make the Forbes top 10 under 10, ho. Not a lot of options. I don't know what to do. It's funny though because I still have like a primal urge to reproduce that comes out every once in a while, you know? Like I remember a few months ago I was very, very sick and I had a really bad fever and I was lying in bed with a fever and I was just like, I told my girlfriend, I was like, bring me my son. Give him my USB stick. It has all my saved games on it. Tell him to continue my legacy. She was like, I will get you an Advil. I'll do that. I mean, it's a lot. You know, a kid is a huge decision to make. It's a lot of financial and emotional resources to spend, and you never know how the kid's going to turn out. It's kind of a huge gamble. Imagine spending all this money and time raising a kid, and they just grow up to be a comedian. Like, my God. What a disaster. I'm very lucky. I have a very lovely partner that I live with in Vancouver. Partner is a very millennial term. We invented that term. We can take that for ourselves. The millennials, we invented partner, and I love it. I love the term partner. I remember when I was in high school, I thought it would be really nice to have a girlfriend. And then when I graduated and saw how expensive everything was, I was like, I need a partner. I definitely need a partner for this. Like it's kind of romantic too. It's kind of a romantic term. It's almost like, you know, it implies like if I go down, you go down with me. Like, let's go out of business together. But yeah, I have a very lovely partner. She's very nice, and we took a long time to get together. It was like a long process before we eventually committed to a relationship. And I think that is a smart, cautious way to go. You know, relationships are very scary. I think they should be approached in the same way you would approach exploring an unexplored cave. You know, you have to have the same system. You want to have like a constant contact with your friend group on the outside, and like you want to tie a rope around your waist and give it to all your best buds, and you just like slowly lower yourself into the relationship, maintaining constant contact with the surface. You know, you just sort of start going into the cave, and you're like, what do you guys think of her? And they're like, dude, she's so cool. You should go another couple hundred feet in. You guys are awesome together. Well, we're about 300 feet down. There's a lot of bats down here, and there's a lot of bats. Oh my God. We'll save you. You know, I think that's the way you should approach a relationship, but everybody's got that one friend that's like, is that a cave? And they just dive. You don't hear from them for 8 years? And then they wash up somewhere on the beach. They cough up a wedding ring like, what was that? I have many jobs. I work at a museum in Vancouver as well. That's very interesting, working at a museum. I work at the front desk. It's a very don't care job. It's amazing. I don't have to do anything there. I finished the whole internet last week. I got to the very bottom of the whole thing. Like, it's amazing working where there's no stakes, you know? Like, I'd never try even slightly at my job. You know, some people approach the desk with, like, weird coupons. They're like, it's a 2-for-1, but there's 3 of us. I'm like, it's free for all of you. I can't do that math. Like, that's... What a genius. There's a couple awkward discounts I administer, though. The seniors discount I know is awkward. You know, you don't want to just assume someone's old. You know, you don't want to have like a wrinkle scale in your head and just assume someone is a senior. They might get offended. So I always ask, like, I might ask some leading questions to find out if they're old. I'll be like, hey, so do you own a house? And when they're like, oh, wow, I do actually, I'm like, well, it's also cheaper for you today as well. Wow, pretty great. The most awkward discount I administer, though, is definitely the discount for Indigenous people. They do not pay to go into the museum, but they don't advertise this at the front desk. So I'm stuck in a situation where I want to make sure Indigenous people don't pay to go in, but I also don't want to ask what race people are at the front desk. Because I look like I would do that. And like, I don't want to be sitting there like, oh, excuse me, sir, are you Indigenous? And he's like, oh, actually, no, I'm Mexican. I'm like, full price for Mexicans. I did my degree in music, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, sure, yeah. Oh, yeah, I will be poor forever. It's tough, you know. It's tough having a degree in music and applying for jobs because I always have to apply for, like, the lowest tier job at a place because I don't really have any skills, you know, and it's tough to not be sarcastic because a lot of these very low-level positions still want you to prove that you're, like, physically, spiritually, emotionally dedicated to this stupid job for money. And it can be very tough for me. I'll be sitting in an interview, and they're like, so, Myles, why do you want to work here? And I'm like, well, you know, in my 4th year of music school, I was listening to the late Beethoven string quartets, and I was so deeply moved by the music that I realized my true calling in life is shipping and receiving, so... Yes, I am forklift certified. I do teach piano lessons as well. If you're interested, please let me know. And it's interesting teaching lots of different kids. I teach a lot of rich kids piano, and it's funny, you know, I can spot a rich kid from so far away. It's just crazy, because you just notice they look so healthy, like it's crazy. How healthy rich kids are. Like, their hair is so full of vitamins and minerals. Like, I wouldn't eat one, but I would, like... But maybe, like, one bite. It's very hard to... teach rich kids piano because they don't respect me at all because they know that their dad can buy and sell me. It's very hard to intimidate them, you know. And like I remember I teaching this one kid, and he literally said, "Are we done here?" And I took a deep breath and I was like, "How am I going to scare this kid into being afraid of me?" And I was like, "You know, you'll probably never actually see a mountain lion, but." Another kind of kid I teach, public school kids can be very difficult to teach because they don't have any attention span. You know, they're not easy to scare either because they've been in Gen Pop for so long. I can't scare them into practice. I was teaching one public school kid something on the piano, and he just laughed in my face like the Joker. I was like, "Oh, you have to play here on the music," and then he was just like, I was like, "What is funny that happened?" And he was like, "Oh, nothing. I was just thinking about a YouTube video from earlier today." I was like, "You're watching YouTube right now in your brain?" Like, can you put some piano lessons in there? My favorite kids to teach, though, for sure, are homeschooled kids. It's just an absolute delight to teach homeschooled kids. They're very easy to intimidate. It usually goes something like this. I'll be like, "Have a seat at the piano, Abraham." Bless you and your waist-long hair. Now, I noticed you didn't practice last week, and if you don't practice this week, I'm gonna vaccinate you. I'll do it. I went to music school mostly because it was almost entirely paid for by the government, not because I'm so good at the piano, it's because I am medically stupid. I'm actually so dumb, the government just paid for everything. It's incredible. It was a strange journey to get this. I was at a harmony class, like a music theory exam, and I did really badly on the test, and in the hallway, a bassoon professor approached me, and they were like, "Myles, have you ever had your brain looked at?" And that's a real low point in your life when a bassoon professor is like, "You might be insane." And I was like, "No." And then she was like, "Well, if they find you, you have some disabilities, you might be eligible for grant money." And I was like, "I am scheduling an appointment right now, actually, as we speak." So I had an appointment with a neuropsychologist, and they did a 9-hour neuropsychological examination of me. And they asked me all sorts of bizarre questions. He was like, what are you most afraid of in life? And I was like, mountain lions for sure. And then he would write in his little notebook for a long time. And he was like, "What are your plans for the future?" And I'm like, "I don't know, I'm only 24. And he's like, "Oh, all right." And I had this whole exam. At the end of the exam, I got the results back, and he had them in a big, thick file. And he says, "Myles, the results are in, and yeah, you're going to be getting that grant. Also, you may have an IQ as low as 86. How do you feel about this?" And I was like, "Out of 100? So I got my grant, and I'm so happy, and I'm sitting at home, and I got a letter in the mail from the doctor, and it's an invoice for the exam. It's $2,000. And I was like, "Oh my God. Like, I don't know how I'm going to pay this." And I got so mad. I couldn't believe it was so expensive. I thought this was going to be paid for. I'm disabled. And I'm pacing around inside my grandma's house thinking about what the hell's going on. I began to question if this guy's a real doctor, that took a real brain exam, because I'm thinking, halfway through this exam, this guy should have been thinking to himself, "There's no way Myles has $2,000. And by the end of the exam, he should have been realizing there's no way Myles will ever have $2,000. So I got it in my head. I said, you know what? I'm going to issue my own IQ exam for this doctor. It's my own test to him. My test is, can this smart doctor get $2,000 out of a man with an 86 IQ? And so far, it's been 10 years. So checkmate, Dr. Dum Dum. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. You've been so lovely. Thank you all for coming out.